Good morning, Shiners. I hope everybody's well this morning. We woke up to about 3 inches of snow this morning. I heard Nashville got about 5, and other parts got 6, and I'd say we've got my bird feeders look like they've got about 3 inches on 2 to 3 inches on top. I know last night when we went to bed it was 50, and when I got up this morning it was about 25. Good morning, Francisco. If you're still in here, I hope you're having a good Saturday. I must say, you get up early, so I don't know if you're still in here. Maybe you've had to go to work, but if you're here, welcome. If you're not, have a good day. Or if you come back later, I know you went to Florida last week or week before last, so I know you had a big time down there. And in the meantime, let me bring in my cohort in crime here. Morning, sir.
Morning.
Is that your dog chew cap?
It is. I never know how to move that way.
There.
There it is. See that?
Yeah, that looks like puppy chewed mark.
That's what it is. But the hat's still good.
Yeah, that's what counts. As long as it keep your head warm. What's the temperature out there today?
I don't know what it is right now. It's
been cold, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's been real cold. We're actually supposed to warm up into the 40s today, I think. It's probably 20 right now because that's normal, but it'll warm up here in a bit.
That'll be at least probably 10 degrees warmer than here. I think they're calling for maybe 30 here today.
Yeah, we've had about a week of pretty severe cold, and we're going back up. So we like that.
Francisco, I believe you were still in Walt Disney World last week, Saturday, were you not? I know I saw you posted some pictures on your Instagram where you were meeting lots of folks, or lots of folks found you, or you found them, or something down there last week, or while you were there. You make me yawn, Mark. It's your doings.
Why?
I'm going to talk baseball just for a minute with Francisco. I know he wears a Dodgers hat around a lot. Well, it's either that or he just likes San
My wife's a diehard Red Sox fan.
Mm-hmm.
And the son, they've both been to Fenway and
oh my,
been in the shadow of the monster and
in the shadow of the monster.
And
forgot probably didn't do much baseball, and you sure know the lingo, I must say.
They love being back there because they ate lobster like 6 meals a day.
Oh, well. Yeah, well, that does help. I'd probably
went and saw all the church with Paul Revere and all that.
See, I'd like to go up there for the history. I might not care much for that. That and they've got good pubs up there, I understand. I think that Irish pubs and such would be a lot of fun in Boston.
And their streets are about 6 inches wide.
Yeah.
I mean, they've got cars running on those streets that were built specifically for horses,
Yeah.
It'd be a pretty cool trip.
It would. I'd just like to go spend time in just for the history's sake. I don't know if I'd.
Well, that's what they did. I mean, they went to watch baseball, but they took in all that history. The I don't know what you call them, catacombs or tombs that are in all those old churches where people are just, stacked on top of each other. Kind of freaked out the boy.
How old was he? Has it been recent? Hey, you
Oh,
wait.
it's been, yeah, he was in his 20s.
Get up, get on my show. Just me and Mark and Francisco right now. Get on there and say hi. Participate this morning. Be a human. join the human race. Mark's laughing at you. What? Okay, you try. Bye. Had to shame her a little bit, you know. Let me see if I can shut my door. If I have my door open, it echoes with her up on her end. She said it makes it hard for her to keep up. Hello, Ian B. Yeah, Mark don't know. This is my friend Mark Uncas here. He's what Ian's talking about there is I went on Wednesday night and helped. I don't know if I want to admit that or not. Talked with on Monarch Moments live broadcast about flying an airplane. I think we got most of them down in. I can't swear to that we got everybody down safe, but I hope we got some down safe. There was a lot of pilot interference there. I think the co-pilot on the Monarch Moment then was giving a lot of backseat instruction. Just my guess, or at least that's how it looked to me. I'm going to give him hell over that too this weekend, but next week if I talk to him. Yeah, they wanted to talk. She and I went to Garrett's the husband. Garrett and I talk probably once a week, and he calls me to check up on me, I reckon, and which is probably an okay thing. And Michelle, his wife, and I, Jeff's head. No, I'm not sure Jeff's head was talking or helping. At least his head wasn't talking. That could have been real bad. She and I went to school in Florida not together, but the same school, where I learned how to work on airplanes. She learned how to, I guess, fly and be and some aeronautical engineering or something. I think she took down there. And of course, a few years apart, she's a little bit younger than me, but I'm not sure how much. But that's just a little thing we happened to stumble upon when not talking about schools or something. And she said something. I said, "Wait a minute, you telling me you went to?" It was Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University, and I said, "You telling me you went to school there?" Because I've never met hardly anybody that ever went to school there. In fact, it's a much bigger school now. When I was there, it wasn't very big, and had been around though since the 20s. I think they started flight training. They've got a place out in Arizona too. Not sure
which one of those was built first.
I think Daytona Beach, but I'm not positive. I'm not positive about that. They might have been in Arizona, but
because I didn't live too far from that one.
Oh, there. Really?
Well, it's in Prescott.
Yeah. That's right. It is in Prescott.
I lived out east of Prescott, but yeah, it's
so you knew of it there.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure the Florida campus came first. They moved out there probably for the weather. And I think I'd have to look this up to verify. That may have happened when they were trying to train pilots, for World War II or something. But I think pretty sure the first one opened up in the 20s. There's a picture. We used to have a picture down there on the wall. They started flight training in small tail dragger airplanes, old stuff. And they'd park them in the hangar and they'd pull their tails up in the air like this. And so they could park more of them in the hangar. They'd stack them up vertically around the wall of the hangar. Strangest thing I'd ever seen. I've never seen anybody do that. But that allowed them to get planes in the hangar and work on them too, I guess. They didn't have a lot of room. And I think when I went to school down there and was learning mechanics, I think the buildings we used might have been some of their old Quonset hut hangars they had. Because we were in the old part, and which I think is probably all long gone. Well, I'm 99% sure that's all been knocked down now. Nope, I got me a Sue say, oh, thank you, Brenda, whoever got that. Hey, Carol's here. Hey, Car Key, thank you for that. one of my daughter's classmates is going. Oh, he knows, and I'm going to assume that's Ian as a male going to the Prescott one now.
Yeah, and it's about 4,500, 5,000 feet.
Yeah.
It's pretty high up there. That university is.
Carol, you guys, if you have snow, be careful driving. I'm sure you don't care about that one way or the other. You're probably so used to driving in snow. It's just, well, I assumed that. I just, I'm trying to be cautious, Ian. I wouldn't. And since I can't see the other end.
Well, you can pick now. You can decide.
Well, that's true. That's true. We won't go there.
They asked my
son.
They asked my son that in a meeting, like, "What do you identify as?" And he told him a grizzly bear.
Oh, I can go for that. Ursus, I could identify as Ursus americana versus Ursus horribilis or whatever it is. Oh, me. Let's see who else. I mean, I'm missing people. I didn't see Carol come in. Ian, Blake. Well, Blake Barrington was a bot, apparently, that Carol took care of for me. Thank you very much. Florida. They used to say they put Riddle in Florida because of the. When I went to school down there, they like to say, it was the sun shone 300 and something days a year, whatever it was in Florida, which is true. That doesn't mean it don't rain those same amount of days, because it can rain and the sunshine just, like that down there. And, but now Arizona, it rarely ever does rain. So they've probably got a lot of good flying weather out there, even if it is at high altitude.
We had we'd get some snow in the wintertime.
Well, you were high. Yeah, you were high enough to get snow.
And then during the monsoon in July and August, you could get some. Typically not in that part of the state, but you could get some massive rains then.
Yeah, but how long did they last? I mean, were they just quick and done, or?
Well, every afternoon you'd just get a toad strangler.
Well, I should kind of know that, because I was in New Mexico in 1972 in June and early July, and we got thunderstorms every day we were there.
Every day, yeah.
Started about 5. It would start you could almost set your watch by it. It would start about 5 o'clock. It would storm, thunder, lightning, and then hail like crazy, which is kind of painful in a canvas tent.
Yep.
Which is, canvas pup tent, which wasn't very big to begin with. Kind of hard not to get bonked by a hailstone's about that big. Carol says she's out driving around, so she is probably doing swim lesson duty or swim practice, whichever it is. And I asked Francisco about baseball. Did you? Well, I got a question for you too, but I guess. Hang on just a minute. Let me double check this. Sorry about that. I'll have to talk to my spouse. I'm not my spouse, I'll do that. Like, I'll wait till Mark comes back. Remember how we've talked about doctors and how we don't like hospitals, and
Yeah.
you and I have that in common.
Yeah. They're
the other thing I hate about them is bills.
Yeah.
Not that I don't want to pay my bills. That's not. But that was the damn lawyer for a collection agency, because they said I owe them $30 for a medical bill that I didn't get till like one day this week. And I'm thinking, why? They must, as soon as I go in there, they must send that thing to the lawyer so they're ahead of the schedule in case I forget or something. It just drives me nuts. The insurance is doing this and then they're doing that. And then the next thing I know, I get it done. And instead of a bill, I get done for it and find out that I owe somebody something. So I told her I'd have to take care of that at a different time. I wasn't going to do it right now. Hell with her. $30. They spent more on that. They probably spent more on that phone call than they're going to get from me. Again, I'm not saying I shouldn't pay it. I should and I will, but it's just you
aggravating.
Do it more efficiently than that.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's a whole nother topic. I won't go down that path any further. I promise I'll stop. I swear. It just drives me crazy. Like I said, I know I need to pay my bills. I have it. It's not that we haven't paid it or don't pay it. It's, we can't pay it till we get it because we don't know what the insurance paid.
Right.
I know. I know when I worked for the government, there were some things that they just wouldn't do because it wasn't worth the money. Time we put 2 or 3 lawyers on a project, if it was for under a certain amount of money, it just wasn't worth it because we'd lose more than we made, or not made, but got back from somebody. We'd be better off fixing it and going on, which leads to other problems. But then people kind of expect you not to collect. But in our case, it was different. People were stealing from you and me in the form of trees and other such things as that. Ian, what part of the world are you from, sir? And while see if he answers that, I know Francisco's in California. How in the heck did your wife become a Red Sox fan when she's from Wyoming or Colorado, wherever she's from?
I don't know.
That's
always been their team.
I need to ask her that. That's a mystery that the world probably wants to know about. Ian's from Denver, Colorado. You're not far from you, brother.
No, he's probably a Rockies man.
He probably is. Mark lives in Wyoming, Ian, so you're on one side of the mountains, he's on the other, I think. But I don't know if you guys are getting the snow out of this front, or maybe you've had snow for a long time. I don't know. But I'm
tired of it.
Well, you've only got what, 5 more months of winter?
Yeah, I think summer's on Thursday this year.
Oh, he's a San Francisco fan.
Oh, and the Niners.
I'm sorry about that, Ian. Bless your heart. But that's okay. I'll never forget. Oh, you're an Avalanche fan too. Now that's fighting talk now. I can joke about the baseball and the football and all that, but now you're talking hockey here. I think I'm still confused a little bit about how the teams are set up. Seems like during COVID they changed things around a little bit. Are the Avs still in the same division or same group as Nashville is? Ian, I think they are, which makes them. And you guys have had the Nuggets. Not the Nuggets. The Avs have had a good year, haven't they? I think they have. That sounds bad that I don't know because I usually keep up with that real well, and this year it's been a busy year for me for winter sports, Olympics, and now Paralympics, and just a lot going on.
Did they already start the Paralympics,
Yeah,
or are they
they
over?
no, well, no, I don't think they're over, but they could be, I suppose. I've been watching them at night some at least since last week. I think well, actually, I don't know how long they run because there's not near as many of them,
Right.
as there are in the regular Olympics. So I don't know if they run as many days or not. But it's been interesting to watch. I tell you what, it's impressive to watch somebody, male or female, out there with double amputee out there pulling skis and doing cross country skiing, and look to me like they're just flying on skis.
Yeah.
You talk about some upper body strength. Now it's impressive. That, and the other thing impresses me about well, it all does. For all of them to be there and doing the stuff they do is amazing. But watching sight impaired or completely blind skiers go down a ski course and weave in and out of poles and by following somebody who's in front of them, a guide, and not run into everything and actually make pretty good time is just amazing. It's
Yep.
just, I mean, I've seen them. The only thing I hadn't seen anybody do yet is do a ski jump, and I don't know if they do that or not, but I guess if you did, you'd either be one scared to death, but once you overcame that, I guess you wouldn't care. Watch blind soccer over the summer. And did they play with a ball that beeps? It seems like I've seen something about that one time. Yeah, I thought they were both still in the Central. It seems like last year when they had things divided, it was just East and West, and I don't know. It was just confusing during COVID. They had teams all split up. Her wife was born and raised out there, I think she said. I lost that line. Wife born and raised here, so she loves all Colorado sports. Well, I get that.
Did you see the American? The end of the American down
I
in
did
Florida?
not. I'm ashamed to say that I did not.
Kaika Pacheco won $2.1 million.
Did he?
Two
Now,
point.
did they do it this year where certain people could qualify, and if they did, they were eligible for an extra million or something? Or was that just what his money's worth?
It was 2.1 million. So if you
Oh,
were
that's right, because nobody won it last year.
if you were a well, and they upped it anyway, but if you were they had two categories of athletes, and you're either an invitee or a contender, and the contenders are eligible for the big money, and the invitees are there just to they still
Fill
make
in
a
the
lot.
blank.
They still make a lot of money, and they're
Yeah.
all they're all really at the top of their game. So
I
yeah,
know.
it was a pretty good one. But they had some kind of deal going with the PBR. They kept cutting the bull riding off. You could watch everything but the bull riding except that last night, and they showed it to us that last night. But
I may have it recorded. I was trying to catch up with it because I was getting confused about what rodeo was which.
well,
And
Houston was going on at the same time,
that's what I thought. That's what confused me about
and
it.
those guys are running back and forth between those two venues.
Well, at least they could stay in the same state.
And then they did that PBR teams thing or the Global Cup at the same time. And so, some of those bull rider guys were going from Houston to Fort Worth to wherever they did the Global Cup in one of those two towns. So,
Oh, I missed that too. Who won that?
USA, the Eagles.
And was Ryan Dirt Eater? Was he coaching them, or was he doing?
He was coaching the Wolves, the native guys.
Oh, okay. So they were a separate team,
and they didn't do very well.
Oh,
Yeah,
right.
I guess the host country gets to have two teams, and so they've always done that. Eagles and then Wolves.
Of course,
And so,
technically they're sovereign nation, so I mean, it's almost like being a.
yeah, but they're still representing the USA. They're you know
Oh, okay.
their jerseys say USA Wolves, but they're all native guys.
Cool. No, I actually wanted to watch that. And I have some recorded right now that I haven't watched, so I'm hoping I've got it. The like I said, with all that with Houston going on, I wasn't sure which was showing, but I couldn't keep up there for a little bit. I got plumb confused-lated. Well, you had bull riding going on, and all these they were showing all these
Olympics
and
crazy.
well, not Netflix, well that too, but the full Olympics were going on just a few weeks ago, and that was, and I watch. I'll go now the rest of the year, not watch much of that kind of stuff at all, but when that's on, I usually watch. I mean, it's only every 4 years, so, and it's the winter sports. That's the one I like. I watch some of the summer games when they have them, but that doesn't mean as much to me. I could see my big butt going down a mountain path in a sled, but I can't see myself running a marathon. It just don't work that way.
Bobsled and luge, that's all good.
Yeah, I mean, you're going downhill, gravity working for you.
Well, they got that one where you're face forward now, the skeleton or
something. Yeah,
that's a pretty spooky looking event.
That's how we did it when we were kids.
Well, I know the first thing you hit's your face.
Yeah, that's true.
Look at us.
Well, we never had a helmet or face mask or anything. Those guys wear helmets and everything now. What a bunch of wuss. They don't know what living is till they go down a mountainside on an inner tube and hit a tree. Okay, and I didn't mean to not.
You probably can't even get one of them big old tractor inner tubes anymore. We used to fill them so full of air, and you were almost like floating.
And for both water, and they were great for summer sports and winter sports.
Yep.
You just didn't want to stick that big old brass air valve up your behind or somewhere.
He said your chin's an inch away from the ice on that skeleton thing.
Well, you know what they said?
I bet that hurts.
Well, I was watching that one day, and they kept hearing the sound and they said that was actually their chins scraping the ice. I didn't realize that they really got down that close, but they were scraping the front of their helmets in some cases. So that's pretty close. That's I've ridden motorcycles all my life, and scraping your chin on the asphalt's not a good thing. So, crazy. I agree. I mean but I love it. I mean, honestly, if I was that age, I'd probably be right out there doing it because that's just.
It looks like a good time.
Yeah, it does. I mean, we used to have some great times up home if it snowed good enough to go sledding. I mean, we'd be out all night, big bonfires, and this was back before alcohol was introduced. Well, at least as far as everybody knows, there was no alcohol involved. But I mean, and we'd have a great time, and running into each other and going down the hills on tubes and sleds and toboggans and
car hoods.
Oh, had a bird. I put out a new feeder out here yesterday, and I think I had 8 goldfinches out there yesterday. At one time, I was trying to count them; they were coming in and out so fast. But I had 8 out there once.
Is it a thistle feeder?
Yeah, that one is.
We don't have any of those hung up here. We'd probably get more goldfinch. They'll come in and feed a little bit. This goldfinches and pine siskins will come in and feed a little bit on the.
No, I was trying to say I sledded before I was allowed to drink alcohol.
Before it was invented.
Not before it was invented. I look old, but I'm not quite that old. Okay, you just said the Preds are back and forth again. See, that's how far behind I am. Last time I looked, they were still in the wild card spot. So they were up into third or second, and then they fell back down, and now they're back up. I mean, they've been up and down this year bad. I hope, and I thought the Avs were in first or second. I knew they were up there. They've had a much better year than. No, that's quite all right, Ian. I understand the confusion. I mean, I do predate some things, more things than I'd probably like to admit. Did my wife actually speak? Well, she was in here, wasn't she?
Yeah, a little while ago.
Okay. Brenda, every once in a while, say something because I don't know if you're awake or not. She said, "Good morning, everybody." Okay, so they're still in the wild card spots. That's good. Oh, that's right. They would be in fourth. Yeah. Okay. I watched them retire. The Preds had a really good goalkeeper here for the last 15 years or so, and he retired this year. He was the first jersey that they've ever retired, put it up in seals. That was really interesting, really cool ceremony. It was kind of neat if you're into that sort of thing. But
So they've had a hockey team in Nashville for 15 years.
They've had a hockey team in Nashville since the mid to late 90s, actually.
Really?
Yep. And it's become believe it or not, it's become a huge hockey town. The hockey gets people excited down there. It's fun. I've been to one game, and you'll love this part, Mark. They many years ago, and I'm not sure when it started, but Detroit Red Wings the fans would throw octopi onto the ice for certain reasons, like if they didn't like a call or maybe just to celebrate. But they would literally throw octopi out on the ice, and they'd have to go around and pick them up. And at Nashville, they throw out catfish. And some of them are pretty good size. And you can buy a T-shirt that says something about a catfish, and they actually sell. When I was down, Phil and I went to a game before I got hurt.
Who got that up?
I don't know. It just somebody started it, and it took hold.
Well, of course it did.
Well, of course it did. It's Tennessee for one thing. I mean, they could have been throwing live raccoons out there or something, but and they got these young ladies that go out and sweep the ice and stuff during the intermissions and between when the Zamboni's not out there and pick up any trash that somebody might throw out, or so they have to go out and pick up the catfish. And I've always wondered how nasty and slimy a cold catfish is out on the ice. Ian said I had to do a. Wait a minute, what's he saying? Oh, okay. Well, that
8 wins.
8 wins. Okay.
Detroit fans are weird.
I think all fans are weird in some way or another. He said he's talking about Marcus or anybody. He said back in the original 6 days, I didn't realize this, but when I was growing up, and there was a time when hockey was on TV, and then it went away, and then now it's back. But there were only 6 teams that played. The original 6 teams played each other for a whole season, and then went to the finals. So it's no wonder some of them have lots of championships because there was only 5 other opponents. Now there's, I don't know, 20-something. Ian can probably tell us, but I just didn't realize there were that few professional teams back then that were, playing for it's snowing again, the Stanley Cup and whatnot.
Well, my good buddy's a psychotic Blackhawks fan. He's not safe to be around when they're. I mean, seriously, you got to keep him at bay with a stick or something because he's just not safe to be around.
Yeah, that's true, Ian. It's no wonder they all hate each other. You're right, because it was down and dirty and really personal back then. I was kind of giving Carol a chance to get back and see if anybody else showed up before I started my main topic for today, but may not be anybody else come in. People might be snowed in at various places. I just can't get over how much snow we've got outside right now. We haven't had this much snow in a while. Anyway, 31 with the Kraken. Okay, there's 31 teams now. I thought I was going to say 28 or 30, but I couldn't remember exactly. Yeah, the new team this year was the Kraken.
Where's the Kraken at?
Seattle.
So they get to yell, "Release the Kraken."
Yeah, I'm sure. I haven't actually seen a live game from out there yet, but I'm sure that's part of their opening ceremonies. It would be if I was out there. I mean, if I was a Kraken, I would want them yelling, "Release the Kraken." I mean, what a I think the Kraken or the term Kraken goes back to, I don't know if that's Scottish. For some reason, I'm thinking that's a Scottish thing, but it may not. There she is. Oh, see, you have to be careful here. She's just insane for being called weird. I'm sure that's not the first time, Carol. Come on.
And you're in good company.
Yeah, that's true. You're in good company. But are you a Red Wings fan, Carol? Or I know Carol is a sports fan. I don't know if she's fanatical, unless maybe it's for Michigan. She is pretty big on Michigan. Well, I mean, you got to think there's somebody a little bit weird, at least when they start throwing things like catfish and octopus out on the ice. What's the Kraken going to throw out there? What can they find to throw? Maybe squids. Maybe they can find a giant squid to throw out on the ice once in a while. And that'd take several people to get it over the glass, I'm thinking. But if they can find one of those really deep sea squids that's 20 feet long and tentacles about as long as the ice is, that would be pretty crazy. Well, I had started out last week. Now, I do want to bring up one thing. I'm going to see if I can share screens here. This is always an adventure because, as everybody knows, I don't always get this right. Okay, if you followed my streams before, you know that sometimes, oops, like right then, that was wrong. I got to be real careful because last week I did this, and that's when I ended up with this. You weren't here last week, were you?
Me?
Yeah.
No, I wasn't here.
You didn't hear the god-awful echo I had. I had a terrible echo last week, and it was pretty much all because I did something wrong, and then it went nuts. And it was just really bad. I mean, really bad. I've never had such an echo. I've never even heard anybody else with such an echo. I don't know if I actually said a show or not. I mean, or like a record. Oh, that didn't work. Uh-oh. See what I mean? Come on. Now I'm in a trap. Okay, bear with me a minute. Do I hear puppy?
No. The Vizsla's up here hugging on me.
Oh.
I think the pup went back into the house with Mama.
Tell that story you told me about taking the dogs for a walk the other day.
Oh, when it was ground blizzarding, and
Yeah.
it was probably 25 below zero with the wind chill. And
There.
we got about a half mile from the house, and the smart dogs, meaning all the female dogs, they all went home. The pup and my border collie stayed with me, but they're both male dogs, so they can't.
Maybe that had something to do with
They have less brain power.
it. Don't say that out loud now. People believe that.
Well, I see male dogs all the time. They definitely have less brain power.
Yeah, you're probably right.
They tend to do things that they probably shouldn't ought to do.
Well, when you look at it like that. Okay, why am I not able to do this today?
I don't know.
I don't know either. Why can I not do this?
There's a deal here on my screen that says having issues, ? Maybe I should hit that.
It says that on your screen?
Yeah.
Starbucks. Oh me. All right, guys.
I don't think I don't have anything open but this thing. So hopefully I'm not causing it this time.
No, you're not. It's me.
I caused it one time.
Yeah, you did, but that was different. That was
I had the YouTube running at the same time.
I don't know why it's doing this. All right, let me try one more time here. If I can't.
There it is.
Yeah, but that's not, well, I don't want it to look like that. I want it to look bigger so people can see what I've got on there. I mean, I have all my little quaint sayings and, well, not really, but information that might be valuable to somebody.
Well, do you just need to play the slideshow?
Well, that's what I'm trying to do, but it keeps running over on my other screen and hiding everything. Usually I just click. I'm using a different slide. I am using a different slide. I'm using PowerPoint now instead of what I used to use, which was just a Google format that I couldn't really make heads or tails out of sometimes. And now I'm stuck in another
endless loop.
Stop. Okay, well, I'm going to get this, but we'll keep talking. What I wanted to talk about last week and didn't get to because I ran out of, I had this echo problem that was really bad. I mean, I was echoing it. It was like an infinite echo. It was like, pigs in space, space. And it was horrible. And it just kept running and kept running and kept running, and I couldn't stop it. Brenda and somebody else was on with me. I don't remember who I had on here. Well, maybe not. But everybody turned everything off, and everybody did everything we could do to try to fix it. I turned everything off here. I turned my sound off. I did all that kind of stuff, and nothing worked. I could not get rid of it. So, do not understand this. Can you see? What do you see right now on the screen?
Just us. And the comment section over to the side, but that's it.
Hey, John. Good morning. John. Ian said he loved the pigs in space comment. Well, it was funny. That kind of stuff's funny. John, I'm having a Tim moment, so bear with. Which you've been around enough to understand. Not unusual for me. See, every time I click it to be enlarged like I want it so we can see it, it goes over to my other screen and creates this giant screen that I'm not able to do anything with. So I can't see you or it or. And it's working, but I can't see chat. I wouldn't be able to see. I can't see anything. Okay. So I'm just going to have to do it this way. So the first thing I wanted to do was just to remind everybody to at least consider see, that one says, oh, wait a minute. Maybe I got something here. Maybe this will work. Yeah, this is trying to load. This might work. Everybody to keep the folks in Ukraine in mind, and I don't know how it's not looking. Nothing's looking good over there, and I'll be honest. I grew up in the Cold War, so I don't probably trust most Russians as far as I can throw them. Actually, that's not true. I just don't trust their leadership much, and I think they're kind of backed into a corner over there, and they're going to do whatever it takes. But oh, that's right, John. I'm sorry, that's a squirrel. Anyway, think about Ukraine, the people, all the displaced kids. The kids are what really get to my heart. They just my empathy genes or my what's the other word? Empathic. I feel like sometimes I'm a bit of an empath, and sometimes I feel like I just feel all that pain. The kids just really break my heart. So anyway, back to John. John just got back from. There we go. That's better.
Lost wages, didn't he?
He's been lost wages. So John, did you fly back or did you have to, hitchhike back? And I guess if you really did have to hitchhike back, that wouldn't be that funny, but you get the meaning. And before I forget it, if you're new, please consider subscribing and hit that like button down there. Leave a comment. And I've been told lately to say leave a comment because apparently that helps the channel. And I'm not trying to help. I'm not trying to be the biggest YouTuber. I've got 97 subscribers now, according to this. So I'm really close to 100, and that's not a very big landmark. But geez, I wouldn't mind having 100. Haven't seen the news all week. We'll catch up in the next few days. Most of it's grim, John. So I'll just warn you that ahead of time. But anyway, this is the Ukrainian people are fighting for the same kind of things we want and have, and I have to give them credit. They've got some moxie. They've got a leader that used to be a comedian on TV, and for somebody that wasn't a soldier professional or whatever, he sure has got some kahunas, is all I'll say. And he doesn't seem to be too afraid of Mr. Putin and his friend. Ian said, "Oh, lost wages," where I saw 8-year-olds posing with showgirls. Well, yeah, it's you never know in Las Vegas what you might see. And we'll have to get a full report from John if he's around for a while. I know he probably got a phone call soon. So, but anyway, I wanted to do that, and then we'll move on to now. Let me see how to do this. Okay. next part of my story. This was what I was going to talk about last week, and we got distracted by technical difficulties, and so I thought I would come back this week, and hopefully some other people might show up. I really thought this might generate some conversation, so I will try to keep up with any comments in the chat. And Mark, if you see something I don't mention, please inform me of such, and I will.
Well, I don't know what you're mentioning.
Huh?
I don't know what you're mentioning yet. So.
Well, I'm not. I'll get there in just a second. I was going to change in 25 years, mostly sad. Oh, you mean, is that how long it's been since you've been to Las Vegas, John? Ian, if you saw the show, you were at the show the other night, you may recall me talking about my glasses and trying to, get to where I could see the screen. Well, I found out why I couldn't see the screen. They made my glasses wrong. I got a new pair of glasses last Wednesday, and I was so excited because I got new, clear, clean glasses, and I couldn't focus. I couldn't figure out why I couldn't see my computer screen, because the doctor and I had discussed, how far and gone to detail about how much what I wanted to be able to see, and I couldn't see my screens. Everything was a big blur. I was kept moving my eyes around trying to read out the bifocals, and then I was sitting on the couch either that later or the next morning, and I put my glasses on, and I realized I could see the fireplace clearly, which is 10 feet across the room or so from where I was sitting. I thought, this is not right. And so I got to looking around, and they were the focal length. They had ground them wrong, and the focal length was, I would have had to sit across the room to read my computer screen, and then I wouldn't have been able to see it anyway. So I had to send them back, and they're getting the frames reground. So hopefully I'll have them back in a week or so, and I'll be able to see again. I can see with these, but they're just kind of scratchy, and my eye quality's gone down just a tiny bit. Not much, but just a tiny bit. And so anyway, so what I'd want to talk about last week, that's so much for that squirrel. I just remembered my glasses. And I wanted to talk about treasure. And I think I want to talk about treasure in the usual sense, but I also want to talk about treasure in the not so usual sense. And in that, some of these treasure, when I think about treasure and finding treasure in this country, I think also about history, because I look at it and I have to wonder. All right, I'm amazed sometimes that not just that they find something valuable from a monetary sense, but the things they uncover that tell us about who was here, what they did, why they hid whatever they hid, that kind of thing. And there are some amazing stories in this country about lost treasure, hidden treasure, stolen treasure, and that kind of thing. And some of them are just tall tales and legends and myths. But like so many things, there's a lot of truth. There's a lot of times there is a basis for some of that. And there's actually a lot of treasure stories from in this country that are true at some level. We think about pirate treasure a lot, and there are recorded records of lost treasure that pirates hid and then got caught and never got to go back. Now, who knows? Maybe some of their men did. Maybe they went back and got it. There are treasures that, and of course, the Florida coast and parts of the southern U.S. seacoast, eastern coast, is littered with Spanish treasure, Spanish gold, actually Incan and Aztec and Mayan and whatever else gold they took from them were found in South America. and it literally is litters the bottom. And what's really cool, what I've learned about that recently in watching some of this documentaries and TV programs, but going back and researching it on my own, is that a lot of this stuff is actually documented. So it's not just stories, at least from a historical perspective. There is modern stuff too, but the Spanish apparently were very, very diligent about recording manifests and what they actually have on their ship. And they often recorded that they had 3 tons of silver or 2 tons of gold or 6 boxes of valuable gems and 3 bales of reefer, whatever there was they were hauling, and the back or cocoa leaves from the New World or whatever. And some of that stuff actually made it back to Spain. Some of it's still in this part of the world, the New World, as they called it back then. And so they can find those records and actually find what ship it was on, and then find that that ship never made it back to France or Spain or Portugal or wherever they happen to be hauling their treasure to. And by doing that, they can go out there and look for it. And that's where a lot of these big treasure finds have been. The Atocha is one of the most famous ones, and it was found off the coast of Florida. And they found bazillions of dollars on that thing. I'm not sure what the final total was. That's one that there was a more modern story of I believe it was the America or the USS America or something like that. It was a paddle wheel steamship that came out of Panama and was traveling up the East Coast and crashed or sunk in a storm somewhere off the coast of Florida, maybe the Keys. And it was full of gold from California that during the gold rush was found and minted and whatever. And it was being hauled back around. It was shipped. This was before the Panama Canal. Shipped to Panama, put on donkeys, horses, whatever, hauled across the isthmus there, put on another ship to be brought to the U.S., both as someone's private money and U.S. coins that were minted in California and being brought around to the U.S. Mint, I guess, in Washington to be distributed. So people find that stuff, and that boat's been found and documented, and that's all very well cataloged and documented and all that. And then there are the ones that we didn't find. And one of the things I have found fascinating by all this is that these days treasure hunters are actually doing a lot more research. They're not just out there hunting something that nobody knows where it is. Now, some of them are, but they're able to track all this stuff. And for example, one of my favorite stories is, and has been for a long time, is the story of Oak Island. Everybody's heard about Oak Island, probably, if you've heard anything about pirates or treasure. I think I read that story. The first story that I think that came out that really popularized or made people familiar with that was in Reader's Digest. And I believe I might have been in high school, or it could have been somewhere I may have been sitting in a doctor's office, but I read the condensed version. Well, actually, my parents got it for a while, so maybe I read it at home. But they used to put condensed versions of stories in the back of Reader's Digest, and you could read all about some adventure or it's sort of like a condensed version of National Geographic, but they actually had a story about Oak Island back then. And I read that and was fascinated by all the things. And this was back when, several people had died there and they were trying to dig this supposed hole in the ground in an island off the coast of Canada. And, there were all these stories, but nobody could find anything, but yet all these people had died trying to find it. And, the fascinating part to me then was that they kept finding signs that there really was something there, and booby traps and all kinds of stuff that kept them from getting it. And of course, I also blew some of that off and said, they're full of crap. It's not true. Well, now, fast forward to this century, and there's people up there trying to get down in there, and they've actually found some stuff and found a lot of artifacts that are actually, for me, more exciting than gold and silver. The bunch that's up there right now, along with the Canadian government, and archaeologists have found records that are not record. Well, they found a lot of records too, but they found a lot of evidence that there was probably European interaction going on up there along that coast long before Columbus ever thought to sail across the ocean blue. Um, and he gets all the credit for, finding the New World, and he never actually got to North America. In fact, he never got to the mainland. He was, on the islands down there in the West Indies. But, they found they found material that is from ships that were old. They have found stuff that has carbon dated back to the 12th and 11th and 12th century, and things that they've dug up. Now, I don't know when those things might have arrived here, but they sure got there before we did, or before most people said we did. I've always thought that the Vikings got here much earlier than the Spanish, and they probably got here closer to this part of the world than the Spanish got, at least initially. And I find that fascinating, and they're uncovering just all kinds of stuff all the time now that's shedding more and more light on that. So I think, and that part excites me more than the treasure. I wish I'm always waiting for what they found or dated or can prove came from someplace. They find things that I think, well, that's kind of expected. Like like buttons off a British uniform, for example, a British naval officer's uniform. Well, that's Canada. The British renting out there and messing with the French, and the French renting out there, and who knows who else. Of course, the Vikings were there long before them. But they find a British uniform button and they age it or look at it, and the design, the style, and the aging process shows it to be, maybe from the 14th century or the 15th century, long before they thought the British were ever over here. And they were here for some reason, and I wouldn't just buy into that as, like I say, as a treasure hunt. But they're finding artifacts that they can date. They're finding artifacts that they can actually attribute to, some kind of action over here amongst Europeans that we didn't know ever existed. Hey, Bill, Magic of the Mouse Radio. Good to see you, buddy. Long time no see. Mark, Bill, who runs Magic of the Mouse Radio, he has a Disney channel, had a radio station for a while for vets. His son was in Saudi Arabia or in the Middle East, and he started an internet radio station for those guys to play music they liked. And I actually did a radio show for him for a while. I don't know
Very cool.
I don't know if I might be able to dig those up for you too. But Bill has done a good job with all that stuff. Now he's mostly a Disney. He's got a couple of stations actually. I shouldn't speak for him. I should let him speak. But Leif Erikson, and probably people that maybe even people before that. Eric the Red may have been over here, or it goes deeper than that, because you get to and you go across, and there's this legend of the Kensington stone that a guy, supposedly a farmer, found in up along the Great Lakes area in Canada, Minnesota, that had what they believed are Viking runes on it. Some people want to say it's not real, and then some people say it is real. What it does is show that there may have been Vikings inland as far as Minnesota, probably via the Great Lakes, because they were, let's face it, they were sailors and explorers, and they may very well have been there several centuries before anybody thought they were. We now know they established colonies, or settlements, I should say, not colonies, closer to the coast, mostly in Canada, and probably came down the St. Lawrence Seaway or the St. Lawrence River, up the St. Lawrence River into the Great Lakes, and from there they could have paddled anywhere, I think. And just the one station right now. Okay, Bill, I wasn't sure about that. I knew at one time I thought you had two, but anyway. What's funny, I think, about that case is there's resistance to actually study that and prove whether it's real or not. I mean, people want to say it's not real, and they seem to get a lot of resistance from academia that doesn't want to even discuss somebody been here before. Let's say Columbus. I mean, they don't want to rewrite the history books. I mean, it's kind of like they've been teaching it this way for the last 200 years, and we're by God going to keep teaching it that way. And they don't want to, they're not open to possibly learning there were earlier people here. And Native American tribes have legends and stories about white men here before we knew white men were here. Mark has read some, I know he's read some of that stuff. He knows stories about things like that. And other people from other lands, for that matter, coming in different ways. But so I find it all real fascinating. It kind of starts out on the heading of, oh, you got to pick up your dachshund, Mickey. Okay, well, hopefully he's okay. Mark here, Uncas has a mixed breed dachshund and border collie called Boudreaux. So we're kind of dachshund friendly here. And anyway, so that's why I wanted to just talk about this a little bit and get people's opinions or whatever. And there's a whole nother kind of treasure I think I want to talk about eventually that we're finding in this country. Ian says he really dislikes the reluctance of historians to admit they are wrong and change for. Yeah, me too, Ian, because I consider myself a scientist. I mean, I maybe not in the sense that other people think they're scientists, but I do. And if there's facts backing up something like this, I think we should recognize that. And we should be teaching that. We shouldn't keep teaching that, Columbus discovered America, for example. I think that's been wrong since I was young. I mean, we knew the Vikings were here. We've known the Vikings were around for quite a while now. We didn't know to what extent, but we certainly knew they were around. And, so, I mean, I think we have to, I think humans generally want to learn. They want to know things. They want to keep discovering and learning and finding new stuff. And I think when we do, and we can document it, I think we should. And if it means rewriting the history books, well, so be it. Let's start rewriting them, because it's not the first time we've had to redo them. I mean, let's face it. And then you go from that, you get out west. I don't know what my next slide is here. Let me see. Oh, well, this is just another in general, but this is a picture of a map. And just talks about how lost or hidden treasures scattered all over the world. And in some, it's right here in the USA. And I believe the next picture I have, well, this is Inca and Aztec treasure, Shawnees. The Shawnee nation, by the time white Europeans crossed the mountains into Kentucky and Tennessee and parts of Pennsylvania, the Shawnee were living in that area. And there were even legends of them having silver. Mark can talk to this a bit. They had silver mines or maybe gold mines even in Ohio, or they had traded with it from other nations. And, and that, unfortunately, that was another thing that led to their demise, because there's always some white guy, pardon me, European, that wants to find their gold and silver.
Yeah, and they had a big silver mine or silver mines somewhere in the east, and then all their ornaments they supposedly took north into northern Ohio somewhere, and when they were fleeing, and they dumped it all, and it's supposedly out there somewhere, and people have been looking for it, since the 1700s. But
yeah, and same thing out west, and I didn't realize this, but there are, again, thanks to the Spanish, there are documented records out west of, and the Spanish documented this. They wrote down in ledgers how much gold they dug out of certain mines, and a lot of times they named those mines but didn't tell where they were exactly. Unfortunately, they used native labor to recover them, to dig them up and mine them. It was pretty cruel in that regard. There was nothing nice about it. To feed Europe's hunger for gold, and the Spanish seemed to really, really want to do that. And of course, that was wealth, and wealth was power. But anyway, they explored up around, into Texas and New Mexico, and as far north as Colorado and maybe Utah. And we don't talk about that a lot in our history books because it was just, I mean, I guess it seemed insignificant. And I don't know how much they actually teach it or if they do, but if you go over there and research it, it is written. And for example, I saw a show recently about the Lost San Sabo mine. Never heard of it, didn't know it existed, probably thought it was just a story. But they have found now records from the Spanish governors or whatever they were called that were in charge of that area for the Spaniards back in the 16, 17, 8, or before we moved out there and took Texas or, moved into Texas. They were mining these areas and they recorded how much gold and silver they had hauled back each month. They wrote it down in a ledger, shipped it down into Mexico, put it on a boat and sent it to, Spain. And they've got records of that. So we know they did it. We know they found some of these mines, and good morning, Mike Cabral. Good to see you, sir. How's Canada this morning? So we know these things are true, but we don't know where they're at. So people have been searching for them for years. And what is believed to have happened to some of these gold mines and deposits is that when basically the Spanish moved in and would work the locals, the natives, till they rebelled. And then they would gang up on the Spaniards. And when that happened, the Spaniards would usually bury the mines or cover the mines up and leave, pull back into Mexico where they had more protection. And then the mine was lost forever unless they happened to go back and reopen it. And most of the time that never happened. So there are these places in the West that actually have lost gold mines and things. And it's fantasy on one hand to think you can go out and find that, but yet there's truth in a lot of it. And I just find that absolutely fascinating. And then there's modern day stories. For example, this one that I've got up next in a slide. This is called the Saddle Ridge Hoard. And this is a true thing that was found by a California couple in 2014. So only about 8 years ago. They were out walking their dog and they found this rusty old can kind of sticking up out of the dirt. So they, scraped the dirt away and they picked it up. Who knows? Maybe they were just going to throw it away, or maybe they didn't want somebody to step on it and get cut, but they picked it up. And lo and behold, it's full of gold coins. And all in all, they found 1,400 gold coins buried there in 8 different rusty cans in the dirt there. And it was on their property. But they had no idea it was there. They weren't even looking for gold. And they think that the coins they're minted USA. And they think they were minted, during or right after the gold rush in California. There was a mint in San Francisco, I believe. And they're dated between 1847 and 1894. So the last ones were put in there sometime right after 1894. And probably belonged to some Californian who was, instead of putting his gold in the bank, was keeping it under his bed or putting it in his bean cans and burying it out in the backyard. But they actually found all this stuff, and those are pictures of what they found. They found over 1,400 coins. I think they found, I read more about that later, and I think they actually found some silver and stuff too. So 1,400 gold coins. But there was other things there too, and I didn't put the number in there, but it was worth several $1 million today. These are like $5 gold pieces or $20 gold pieces when they were originally minted, and I think they found some smaller coins. Maybe that's what it was. Maybe it wasn't so much silver, but just smaller coins that we don't, of course, have today. And this is a recent find. This was only, like I said, 8 years ago. So. This people do find this stuff out there buried from time to time. So it's pretty fascinating to think about when, going out hunting gold. It seems like a fantasy thing that somebody might want to do, but lo and behold, they find it. And this is for example, these are two maps of where they think the Lost San Sabo mine is. The one on the left is thought to be the earliest map of that area by the Spanish, and it was in 1756. And I guess that wasn't gold, maybe that was just silver. And when they were in Texas, so they went back and actually found that and worked that mine. The one on the left is a little bit newer map, but it's still the same area. So these maps go back a ways, and these are in Spanish archives or Mexican archives, maybe, and some of them actually made it all the way back to Spain. So, hey, Dave Cantrell, good morning. Come on in, jump in the discussion. We're talking about gold and discoveries and the history that goes along with it. And of course, in this country, we have all kinds of stories of, buried treasure from everybody from Jesse James to I can't think of his name, Scarface from Chicago. I know up around the Great Lakes, there's all kinds of stories about hidden, mob treasure, mob gold, or stuff that was hidden during the days of prohibition is what I'm trying to think of. Again, these are two maps of Florida. One's an early one. One's more of probably something that was done for, vacationers or whatever, tourists to come down and see. But these show a lot of places where there were legends of hidden treasure down in Florida. Some of these have been found. Some of them are still being worked. There's a whole area off the east coast of Florida, somewhere in the ocean off of Vero Beach area, where they know there was a treasure convoy going back to Spain, got caught in a hurricane, and several ships went down. They found the records of that, and for a long time hunted for it. In fact, I think Atocha was one of those ships, the Atocha, and they found some of them, and they've actually gotten up. What I didn't know was that the Spaniards, of course, didn't want to lose all that gold. So when it went down in shallow enough water, they would actually mount salvage missions to go back in there and try to salvage as much of that gold off the ocean floor as they could. So they would have free divers, and I don't know how else they got down there, but they would get natives that were free divers that could dive into that water and go down, ever how far, 60 or 80 feet, get as much gold in a bucket, fill a bucket up and have it towed back to the surface. And they would do that until they got as much of it back as they could. So some of these treasures didn't just go down and were forgotten. The Spaniards actually went down and actively worked them. And that, again, that's on record. You can find that in these archives. So that's pretty cool. Somebody said, hi, morning, Dawn. Is Dawn in there? Hey, Dawn, I didn't see you come in. It's chilly in the Lone Star State. Do you have snow? I'm going to see if I can open up my phone here in a few minutes and show you guys some Tennessee snow. We got 2 or 3 inches. My birds are trying to figure out where the heck how to get to the seed. Well, they're working on it pretty hard right now. I've got goldfinches, a Carolina wren. Oh, I've got 8 or 9 goldfinches out there right now trying to get into the thistle seed feeder. And I've got an eastern towhee sitting here by my back window. And Spooky just showed up to go down and hunt them. So anyway, these are maps that go back, and there it is. And this is thought to be the oldest known treasure map. And I couldn't find a date. Oh, this was found in the Dead Sea Scrolls. So think about how old those were that they found them. And this was actually a map that was in the Dead Sea Scrolls. And it was about treasure, even back in that. As old as that went. And this shows Africa, part of the Mediterranean. And I could read a few other things on it when I found this earlier. So I mean, you know, hunting treasure and knowing about treasure is not something new, and that's probably the last slide I actually put together. That's why I was just trying to go through them kind of slow and talk about them, but uh, slowly warming up in Tejas. So, Don, you live in a part of Texas where I believe you're not that terribly far from where they think the San Sabo mine is. It may be southwest of you, but oh, she's on her phone. Well, that's quite all right, Don. Thanks for coming in. Howdy. Otherwise, besides it being cold down there, I hope you're having a good day. So, anyway, I'd love to hear what anybody else thinks about these things. I didn't used to put much stock in TV shows or stories about Oak Island and the lost treasure and all that much years ago. I pretty much considered that fantasy, and or not fantasy, maybe wishful thinking. Of course, then things like a Tocha were found, and Mel Fisher discovered all those golden wonders down there. It's amazing what mankind will do for gold. It's definitely something that gets in the soul and has an effect, whether it's good or bad. And like I said, I think to me, as fascinating as the gold is the hey Boudreaux, hey Boudreaux, meet Spooky, Spooky meet Boudreaux. Man, he's growing up.
What is that?
It's a cat. That's a cat.
Yeah, he's 18 pounds, I think.
How much?
18.
He's big as you, Teddy. Never thought about Barry. Okay, so fascinating. There's what Ian said about it. I never thought about Barry Gold when I was younger. Very cool to see some fantasy stories come true. It really is, Ian. I mean, and they're not. I'm sure that a lot of them are the wishful thinking or tall tales that were created. I mean, when you look back at people like Jesse James, there's a lot of stories that were written about Jesse James for the sake of pulp fiction or pet show. Yeah, let me hop down a minute. Come here. You awake? He's so grumpy butt here. Say hi. Miss Carol wants to say hi to you. So say hi.
He don't want to say hi.
He said I was up and then I went back to sleep. So leave me alone. I wanted Brenda to make him a leprechaun hat for today because it's almost St. Patty's Day, and a green shirt. Maybe next week he'll have one. Yeah, that's what I'm hearing too, Don. That's the thing. You think about this and you think, wow, that's really rare, and they find a sunken ship, and that's amazing, and you think, well, maybe there probably wasn't one or two, but that's not true. The case is there were a lot. Apparently, there were dozens, if not hundreds, of lost ships that actually probably have large amounts of treasure on them. And that's why people keep looking. And it goes further than that. I had some pictures. And this is, a dark spot in the world history, but, the Nazis took everything they could find in Europe when they were taking over these various countries. And they put a whole new meaning on pillaging and vandalism and that sort of thing. But they stole not only gold and treasures in that regard, but paintings and that kind of stuff. And I just saw a show the other day about something I had never heard of, and it was the Amber Room. Have you ever heard of that, Mark? Amber Room. Well, it was a real thing. It was created for one of the German kings or emperors of the German Empire, the Germanic Empire, at some point in time. And it was actually, they took real amber, and created these panels and actually lined the whole room with it, and all kinds of artistic designs and shapes. And I mean, it was beautiful. And I think they lit it so that it was backlit, and so it glowed. I mean, the whole room looked like a golden room, and this is all very well documented and written down, and pictures of it, and drawings and all kinds of stuff. I mean, it was pretty amazing, and this was all turn of the 20th century, late 1800s, that kind of stuff. And at some point, because all those royal houses were connected, there was a lot of those trees didn't branch all that far from a family perspective. They were all married to each other's cousins, if not sisters and brothers and all that. But so it went to Russia. And the Germans, actually, the German king or emperor, Kaiser, whatever he was back then, actually gave it to one of the Russian leaders as a gift because, it had something to do with Catherine. I don't know if it's Catherine the Great or who it was. But anyway, he gave it to them, and they put it up and displayed it for a long time. Well, when World War II broke out, there were 2 or 3 rumors. One was that it disappeared during the war. Some people think the Russians dismantled it and hid it so the Germans couldn't get it. It was in Stalingrad, I believe, is where it was displayed. There are a lot of rumors, though, that think the Germans did get it because there's some records that show they did find it and they did dismantle it and they took it back because Hitler wanted it back. And somewhere during the course of the war, it never made it back to Germany. So it's lost somewhere in Europe or possibly even the bottom of the Mediterranean. They really don't know where it is. And there's all kinds of different stories about it. And some people think apparently there was actually a duplicate made of it, and the real room made so they had a duplicate made that wasn't valuable, and they actually put that on display for a while so people could see it, but it wasn't the real thing. So there's some people that think the real one may still be hidden somewhere, like in Russia. I mean, that's a real thing that happened in not my lifetime, but in our parents' lifetime, or my parents' lifetime at least. And that's something that's lost, and they're still looking for it in Europe. I mean, there's all kinds of things like that too, and that's not very old. It does make you wonder about national treasure, doesn't it, Ian? I mean, because there's a lot of people think that the Knights Templar had something to do with Oak Island, and some of the other early exploration in the eastern United States could very well have been by the Templars. And there's some proof or some evidence pointing that way. I won't call it proof yet, but we'll see. And I think if they really did have such a treasure as they were said to have had, it very well could be here somewhere. I mean, I believe the Templars were not destroyed. I think they were such an organization that even though they tried to kill them all, some of them would have got away. I mean, that's always the case through history. I mean, some of them have an escape plan and they get away. And you're talking about an organization that was both Europe's bank at that time and legendary for their military prowess and their organization in that regard. I can't imagine somebody like that going in. Yes, they killed a lot of them, and the different kings and the Pope and whatnot had them executed, but I can't believe some of them didn't escape. And if they did, they took their secrets with them wherever they went. So, who knows? Maybe that is something like that out there. I hope we find out someday. I hope we find some of that stuff before I'm gone. I just think it would be amazing. And somebody else talk for a minute because I'm getting parched. I've been sitting here going on like the Nazis in Argentina. Yeah, exactly. They got away. In fact, this is another sort of a tall tale. There's some proof to it, but there's not enough to verify everything. But the Nazis were working on what they called a super submarine at that time. And towards the end of the war, Hitler was always working on super weapons. He was trying desperately to figure out a way to win and stay, conquer the world. And there are stories of these 2, 3, or 4, and there's records of them building these submarines. And a couple of them were destroyed, I think, like in the dry docks and wherever they were being built. And they weren't on the coast; they were actually up in a river somewhere in a kind of a secret base. The Germans did that a lot because if they put it down on the coast, they would get bombed. But there are stories of them packing some of the art treasures and things that the Germans stole and putting them in these submarines and taking them to Argentina or somewhere in South America so they can hang on to them. And at least one of those never made it. At least that's the story. And there's a guy in Florida, if he's still alive, that believes he found one of them. And he, to this day, won't tell anybody. He won't tell them where it's at. He wanted to go back and get them. He had to quit diving like a year after he found it because he had a heart attack or something underwater, and they won't let him, certify. But he won't tell anybody either because he didn't want anybody else to get it. So, who knows if that's real or not, and it may not even be anything in it if it is a submarine, but, you never know what the Nazis tried, and there's a lot of gold and treasure and art they still search for today, trying to return it back to the original families that had it before the Nazis took it. And that's in our lifetime, and you'd think, well, you'd find that. It can't be that far gone. They did a good job of hiding stuff. Sorry, guys, I broke a nail. It was hooking on stuff. I have very thick and tough nails, but when I hit them or break them, they shatter or crack real bad, and they can tear and hurt. So I was taking care of one, so that's why I muted my mic for a moment. But anyway, if anybody else has ideas, by all means, throw them out there. I'm open to talk about any of them. There are other treasures out there that we're just now discovering, and I think from a historical, and I'm not just talking about European historical, I'm talking about stuff that predates that by a long shot. And it's something Mark and I've talked about, and I think we're going to talk about that in depth here soon. I'm going to put together a show and go over it with him, but we've talked about it a lot. It's like the caves where the art came that you've drawn.
Chauvet.
Chauvet, yeah, the caves, the Chauvet caves or
Caves of Forgotten Dreams.
That one. And there's some really good documentary footage out there about that. That's amazing. I had never seen all that. Bye, John. Tell Dad we said hi. You stay safe up there. I think you guys are supposed to get nailed today if you hadn't already gotten it. Turtle said hi, Teddy, by the way. He's out here. He's looking at birds on the porch. He's just having daydreams about catching them because, he's a super cat. He knows he could get them all if he could get out there. I think he's a little slow. He might be a little overfed to be chasing birds. But, Mark's an artiste, and as I think I showed early on when he first started coming on the show, I had shown some pictures of Mark. I don't have them pulled up right now, or I'd show it, but the artwork in Chauvet, the animals that we say cavemen. That's really not a good word, but the dwellers of that period, of that area at that time.
Food is here.
Okay. Rain and wind and snow. Well, that's what we kind of got, John. Sort of some rain and wind. We actually had a thunderstorm. My wife says I didn't hear it. I was sound asleep, but we had a thunderstorm, and then we woke up to snow. So he thinks that it started snowing within 30 minutes or so of the thunder, which would be kind of cool because we don't get a lot of snow thunder here in the East. You guys do. Or I know people have talked about
it. We get a lot of it.
Man, I am covered up right now with goldfinches. Hey, I got a woodpecker out there too. Squirrel. No squirrels. I've not seen a squirrel this morning. They're all holed up somewhere. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I got 7 or 8 goldfinches out there right now trying to dig thistle seed out of the feeder. It's still blowing snow here. I don't know. I don't think we're supposed to get much more, but it's certainly still doing it now. Dave, I bet you're just probably knee deep in snow down your way. Actually, they are. You guys be careful down there. I don't know if it's in your area or not. Maybe it's already passed through, Dave, but I know part of Florida is supposed to have some nasty weather today. That's true, Ian. They do. They don't worry about coming out. Well, I'm going to tell you something. Their stash may be full of my feeder, my corn and seeds, because they should have plenty of stash. They've been eating off me pretty regular lately. They haven't been into their stash, that's for sure. They've been wearing me out. I actually put out a couple of squirrel targeted. I've got some squirrel targeted feeders out there right now, hoping to kind of keep them away. We had a terrible storm during the night. Okay, well, maybe it's already passed through your area, Dave, because I saw that it looked like it was a line that was going to be going through central Florida, and they were calling for tornadoes and all kinds of nastiness down there, which I don't know. Florida gets a lot of thunderstorms and stuff, but you don't really hear about tornadoes. They get the hurricanes, but you don't hear a lot about tornadoes down that way. Not like you used to in the Midwest. But then this is Tornado Alley now, so who knows? We get way too many tornadoes these days, and certainly way more than I ever dreamed we would from when I was a kid. So anyway, that was the topic of lost treasure and stories thereof. But Mark, you and I talked a little bit about this. I don't want to go too deep in it because I want to save it. But the I guess the paleo archaeologists and people that were working like at the Gray Fossil site and those kind of sites that they have found around the country and around the world are treasures to you and I, probably as valuable or more so than some of this other stuff. I could do without the gold and silver, but I sure love to, I guess, discover the history of man. I guess is the only way I know to put it.
Pick up a big mammoth tooth.
Oh, I'd love that. That'd be amazing. And some of those big molars that are like that big, that'd be cool.
We need to go walk some of those rivers in like eastern Oklahoma. They find them all the time there.
When I lived in Nashville, they found I don't know if it was a mastodon or a woolly mammoth, but they found one in the Harpeth River, which is on the west side of Nashville. And I think that was the first one ever found there. I'm not positive, but it caused a lot of excitement when they found it. And it was in the Harpeth River, basically in a sandbar or a gravel bar.
Yep.
And they had a big storm and it washed out. I mean, it'd been there forever or for a long, long time, since the last ice age anyway. And now, it suddenly popped up. Well, not now, 50, 40 years ago. Good God, it's been that long. They found it, and I was just fascinated. That made me want to go down there and look for, mammoth bones and stuff.
There's a big site down there somewhere outside of Nashville that they've discovered. They talked about that on some of that documentary stuff about the Gray site. They talked about some huge site down around Nashville.
Don, if you're really interested in woolly mammoths and mastodons and that sort of thing, Brenda and I just watched a really good documentary. And I don't know if it was on Science Channel or PBS or what it was, but it was all about a site they found in England. I think it's in England.
Yeah, that one you told me about.
Yeah, that one. And it's in part of
Mammoth
exactly.
Mystery, the Great Mammoth Mystery, I think.
Yeah, that was it. Look that up, and it's fascinating, and it's really interesting what they found there, and discovered that they had no idea was around at that time, or that mammoths or mastodons. I think those are mastodons, weren't they?
No, they were
Oh, they
mammoths.
were mammoths. That's right. They were
Yeah.
mammoths. Different. It's like there's a couple of different species of mammoth that probably more than that I didn't realize. But they found a whole bunch of them together in one spot, and they're not sure if they died there from a flood or something, or maybe got washed down what was the Thames River at that point in history. The Thames is not even close to that now. It's a couple miles away, but it was back then.
Or people killed them.
Or people killed them, which was
Yeah.
also fascinating.
Which was probably, I mean, there's so many stone tools with those carcasses that's probably actually what happened. So, or they at least got stuck in the mud or whatever.
Yeah, it was. That was. Yeah, I thought about that too. They really didn't mention that, but I thought about that. Maybe they were trying to cross and got stuck. I mean, that happens. Someday somebody's going to dig up a site in Africa where there's, 4011 woolly or not woolly, 4011 wildebeest skeletons all piled up where they tried to cross the river over there and it flooded or they got stuck in the mud. I mean, critters didn't just get stuck in tar pits in California. Carol's trying to tell Dave that he should have stayed in Michigan, not gone to Florida. And no tornadoes and stuff up there, I guess. Carol says mastodon is the official state fossil of Michigan. I didn't know that. Our state stone is a fossil as well. What is the state stone, Carol? Do you know, right off the top of your head? And we're going to talk about that more. I don't want to. I broached the subject, so it's my fault. But we're going to talk about that. There's several sites around the country, and I'm going to try to go to Gray here soon and do some video up there so we can kind of talk about that too, Mark. Get nothing else you and I are talk about
Well,
it.
they've got a really nice museum.
Yeah.
On that site now.
Oh, okay, Carol. Well, I'll be looking that up.
Petoskey.
At least I'm going to try to.
Potholes in the road is Michigan State.
Oh, Dave. What did Don have to say? Oh, about the mastodon. I didn't know states had a state fossil, but that's cool. I don't know what Tennessee state fossil would be, a possum or a raccoon.
Well, they found them at Gray.
Yeah, true.
Red pandas.
Yeah, we had red pandas. I would say the state of Tennessee, but it wasn't the state of Tennessee back then.
Well, we were talking about that. It was quite a interesting mix of species. You had wolverines and fishers from the North Country,
Mixed in
but
with
then you had tapirs and things like that living there too at the same time.
Yeah.
So
I'll put together some slides and stuff of that when we talk about it. We'll show that off. I'm ashamed to say I've not been up there. They found that after I left that area and moved away, but I haven't, and Mark too, for that matter. And
yeah, they didn't find it till 2004, I think.
Yeah, something like that. And I haven't been up there to see it. And really bad part of it is I work not too far from there every once in a while. We had an office up there near it. And I never did drive down there. I didn't realize actually how close it was until we got to talking about it. Well, I see sunshine here and some blue sky, so our weather may be over. I bet the snow melts pretty soon. I mean, it'll be gone. Well, it's not supposed to get but 30 today, though, so it won't melt. It won't all melt. If the temperature really does stay cold, it'll It'll hang on a day or two. And then I think we're supposed to warm up, and I can't remember what's supposed to happen next weekend. They're already predicting something for that.
It's going to be
spring and
65 degrees again.
Yeah, probably. Well, like I said, we were out yesterday. Yesterday was like, for back here, it was the perfect day to be outside. It was in the 60s, humidity was low. I mean, the sun was shining. And the wind had a light breeze. It was nice. It really made me want to be out doing something else. Texas State Stone is the blue topaz. Oh, your birthstone, Don. Well, that's cool. What's Carol saying? Local middle school teacher and his students researched and petitions to have the mastodon named as official fossil 25 years ago. Well, that's cool. That's good. That just shows you that people can get stuff done.
We had the same kind of deal happen here in Wyoming. They made the shorthorn lizard the state reptile, and it was a school group that got that done. So,
Is that an existing species or an extinct species?
No, it's existing.
Okay. Oh, okay. It's still the
horn lizard, horn toad.
Horn toad. Turned him into a horn toad. Pete, we thought you was a horn toad. Oh gosh. Oh brother, where art thou? Okay, Don, you got me. I gotta look up Tennessee State. I wonder if I could just type in Google, look up Tennessee State stuff. Tennessee State stone. Oh, the pearl. Is that a stone?
Pearl?
That's a state gem.
Oh,
freshwater pearl. And state stone. We really don't have state stone, apparently. Guess what the state stone for Alaska is? Gold. California's is gold also. And they're saying its nickname's the Golden State, but I always heard that was nicknamed after the gold bear, which they killed off in the 1800s. The last golden bear was killed off, I think.
And Ian says they got a stegosaur for their Colorado's state fossil.
Okay, I didn't look up state fossil. Let me see if we have a state fossil. Well, I didn't spell Tennessee right. That might help. Oh, I can't even read it. Oh, it's a bivalve. Well, that makes sense. I'm going to put it in here. Mark, you tell me how to say it. Let's see if I can post it. That makes sense. We have a lot of fresh water and rivers and things in Tennessee, so having a mussel or bivalve would be probably good.
Pterotrigonia. That's the genus name anyway.
Yeah. You know, I didn't know this till I grew up and moved away. And in fact, I didn't know this till I moved here. Well, I did know some of this. Tennessee's always been really big and important in the pearl trade. Not only were there actually freshwater pearls here that were sold, and they're usually very irregular and they're not nice and round like pearls we think of. But to farm pearls, they use a pearl seed, what they call a shell, a piece of the neckar or whatever from the mussel shells of Tennessee. They cut them out. They're like little buttons, tiny little buttons, and they implant those in oysters in Japan and other places where they really cultivate and culture pearls, and they create pearls out of those. So if you've got a real pearl necklace, you may very well have a piece of Tennessee pearl shell inside that necklace. I've seen that down in Middle Tennessee in the Tennessee River area. They would, and in fact, they've had to control this now because they just about harvested them to death. But they would cut those out of mussel shells, freshwater mussel shells, and ship off trainloads of them to places where they cultivated pearls. And from that, they would grow pearls inside mussels. So it's really kind of fascinating. That was all because of Tennessee's quality. And a town just north of me on the Clinch River, Clinton, Tennessee, was one of the main centers of that trade at one time. That's kind of how Clinton was founded.
Huh.
I did not know that. And Ian, it is hard to spell. Well, our state, I grew up thinking it was called, how did we say it? It was T-E, crooked letter, or humpback, E, crooked letter, E-E, or something like that. That's how we spelled Tennessee. Kind of like Mississippi, it was crooked letter, I.
Crooked letter I, humpback, I.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know that those mussel fishermen were, when I was working at Land Between the Lakes there, between Kentucky and Tennessee, that was the number one industry in that part of the world. And they had all those boats rigged up with those lines they would drag on the bottom that the mussels would grab a hold of, and they took them out by the hundredweight.
Yep, they were like almost some of the ones I remember seeing down there one time were almost like flat boats. And I guess they towed them along behind the barge. Which reminds me of something that's coming out soon. There's a new book coming out about flatboats and history related. Let me see if I've got that.
Squirrel.
It is a squirrel, but we're talking about oysters, so.
Oh, treasure. Okay.
And treasure. Rinker Buck, who wrote the book Oregon Trail, and I believe Solo Flight, when he and his brother flew across country. And they were the youngest to cross country back in. They may have been the youngest two young men to ever cross the country by themselves early on. That other kids have done it now, but he is coming out with a book called Life on the Mississippi, and I'm looking forward to it because they actually built an honest to God flatboat up in Ohio or Pennsylvania, I believe. He had some recreation type people, recreationists, is that the right word? Who had plans and knew how to do the work like it was done in the 18th century, 19th century. And they built a flatboat and actually put it on the water up there and sailed it all the way to New Orleans.
Cool.
Now, because of modern shipping, commercial shipping, and all that kind of stuff on the rivers, they had to put a motor on it, and because they had to be able to get it out of the way if a barge came through. So they had to make a few concessions to legally do it, I guess. They had to get some. I'm sure they had to get some permission from the Coast Guard or the Corps of Engineers, and so they did have to put a motor on it and a few other things. But basically, Rinker Buck. I read the book. It's not out yet. I've seen a little bit of information, and I think people kind of came and went and joined him on the boat and went, traveled down with him. I'm not sure how long it took him. The Oregon Trail trip that he took with his brother from St. Joe to wherever they consider the end of the trail in Oregon. I can't remember the name of the town now or the spot, but there is an end of trail out there in the eastern part of Oregon somewhere. I think it's east of the mountains. I don't think they crossed the mountains out there. I think that the trail kind of broke up from there. Of course, won't nothing grow in Oregon, but you know.
Should have took up trapping.
Jeff lived in Clinton while in school at Union Carbide. Did he, Don? That's interesting. When was that? Union Carbide. Oh, I know where that's at, I believe. I mean, well, where it was anyway. I don't think it's active, but the barge, the river actually was open to barge traffic, the Clinch River, all the way up to that Union Carbide plant, or I believe it's Union Carbide up there. And it was as far up as the channel was considered feasible in the Clinch River, which is south of Norris Lake by about 15 miles, maybe, as the river flows, which is like this. So anyway, Rinker Buck's going to travel down the Mississippi in a flatboat, and that ought to be a pretty good story, I'm thinking. I really enjoyed his Oregon Trail book. I mean, I think he did a really good job with it. And
I wonder how he gets through all those locks and things now. That.
Well, that's a good question. What people do here is two. They have, I guess, they have two options. One, you call ahead.
Yeah, and just schedule
you schedule a
lock, just like
through.
you were a commercial vessel,
right? I mean, they used to let people go through in small boats here all the time. There's nobody right now. There's nobody stationed at the locks that I'm aware of full time.
Oh,
so you have to call ahead, or there's certain days, like during football season. Crazy as this may sound, during football season, there's so many people going back and forth to, for the football game, that they will actually open the locks. They man the locks to let people up and down through the system. Not that many coming. To get there, you come out of Melton Hill, which is a smaller lake below Norris. And from that, you jump into the Clinch, goes on down and empties into the Tennessee down by Rockwood in that area. And so they used to let call a locksmith. Good one, Ian. I like that. Ian said, "You call a locksmith?"
Dun-dun-dun.
I need a
rim shot on that one.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, Union Carbide was in Oak Ridge. Okay, well, there was a plant. They had some kind of, and it might not have been Union Carbide, but it was had something to do with steel and that sort of thing in Clinton, and that was as far up as the barge traffic could travel. They closed that before I came here, but they still had the lock on Mountain Hill, and that worked to let people through. There was another guy named Eddie. I got his book here somewhere. Oh, I moved it to the new spot. It has a new spot, new shelf area. I think it's called Mississippi Solo, and he actually took a canoe and started at the headwaters of the Mississippi in Minnesota and went all the way to New Orleans in a canoe by himself. And when he was doing that, sometimes they would let him lock through just by himself. Of course, that was quite a few years ago. And if there wasn't something else going on, but he was also allowed to go through with other traffic if it was safe. You do not want to get in one of those locks between a barge and the lock wall, because you'll be squished. But it's interesting. I've been through a lock. I finally got the lock through. I wanted to do that for years, and TVA has this big barge towboat type thing that they used to do maintenance, on the water side of things. And we got to ride it down river a bit, and we went through Watts Bar and went all the way down Watts Bar and went through Watts Bar Lock into the upper part of Chickamauga Reservoir. And that was really interesting to drop down inside that thing and knowing there's water over your head on one end and down here on the other. And there's rails or pipes going up and down. And some of the boats, small boats, will tie onto that loosely. And that lets the boat slide up and down and keep it, in the general area of not float around inside the lock. And of course, bigger boats, they hook on a big ring or something that slides up and down to kind of keep them under control. It's really neat thing to be in. I mean, to see how that works, it's fascinating. I did some research. Another lady that has a show on here, most of us know, Mark wouldn't, but Tina Marie, her and her husband live in New York also, or live in New York, and they went out and did some sightseeing and filmed it along the Erie Canal. And so I was looking at the Erie Canal. I thought, man, that'd be a cool trip. I need to go up and explore that area someday. That'd be a fun trip to follow the Erie Canal, across New York and Pennsylvania, or into Pennsylvania. And there's a really cool series of locks up there in a little town called Locktown or something like that. I can't remember now the town, but and it was built in the 17 or 1800s, and they showed how the guy designed the. It's really neat how that worked. Of course, the Ohio River had locks on it at the falls at the Louisville Falls area, Great Falls of the Ohio, I believe they were called.
Mm-hmm.
And they started doing lock work there when, right after Kentucky was, maybe, I don't know if Kentucky was even a state yet. I've read books with George Rogers Clark talked about the locks on the Ohio River, and this was late 1700s. So I don't know when they actually put those in, or early 1800s maybe. Salmon ladder. Ian says, I remember going to a salmon ladder in Oregon, Washington when I was a kid. Yeah, I don't know how many of those are still operating. They do different things now than just salmon ladders. They've actually got elevators or lifts in some places that operate. They used to have a power plant there, but yeah, they still do. Well, I say they still do, Don. I'm not sure if Bull Run's operational right now or not. It was still running. See you, Dave. You have a great Saturday too. What's left of it. But I used to have to go down and work around Bull Run some. I didn't work at the plant, but I did work in that area, and we had some agricultural property that I managed at times that was related to the power plant down there. They did a bunch of work on that, put a bunch of scrubbers and that sort of thing on Bull Run, and then for a while there, it was just sitting there loafing. It wasn't being used because they didn't want to burn the coal. They had other ways of doing it and didn't run Bull Run much, which is both good and bad. But let's see. Oh, he's got a show to get ready for. Well, I'll try to stop in there, Dave, and see if I can't return the favor, buddy. They know how my backside's feeling, I guess. That was in the 80s, according to Ian. I guess that's when he saw the fish ladders. I don't know, Mark. Do you guys have anything? Do you have anything that nothing gets that far over, does it?
No.
Hey, buddy. You awake? You want to be on the internets? Interwebs? Mark? Come here. Oh, he saw me coming. He tried to squat down and avoid the snatch. You're just not fast enough. Oh, and speaking of that, let me tell you what happened the other night. Brenda, maybe it was yesterday morning. No, it was Thursday morning. I got up and Brenda said, "Oh, guess what happened to me last night?" And Chloe, his sister, the little female, sleeps in Brenda's lap a lot. And she said Chloe jumped up on her leg or something and woke her up and dropped something in her lap. And she does that. There's these little fuzzball things that they play with sometimes, and Brenda calls them their baby because Chloe will put one in her mouth and then she'll walk around with it and kind of meow like she's looking for a plate for it or something. Maybe that's because she never had kittens, but so Brenda thought that's what it was. She woke up and there was Chloe sitting on her leg looking at her, because Chloe does that. She'll sit and just stare at you till you wake up. And she's got 8 powers. Brenda felt something in her lap. She thought Chloe had dropped. Wait a minute, what in the heck? I've caught somebody's big balloon or their kite, one out in my tree. That's new. That wasn't there a few minutes ago. Anyway, so she dropped something in her lap. So Brenda just, half asleep, reaches down and finds it. She thought it was that little fuzz ball or yarn ball, whatever it is. And she said she got a hold of it, felt it, and she said realized it had legs. And it was a mouse. The kids had caught a mouse, and Chloe took it to Mama to show off, I guess, bring her a present. Of course, Brenda said, I felt it, and she said, I just flung it. I said, I'm surprised I didn't hear you squeal. And she said, no, I didn't squeal, but I got rid of it. And, of course, then they went chasing after it again, which is probably what they wanted her to do anyway. She said the mouse was kind of playing dead laying there, but it wasn't dead. It started moving, and she threw it away, and then Teddy got it, and he played a little too rough with it, and I think after that it was probably dead. She said he severed its neck pretty bad, pretty much off. So it had to go outside, didn't it, buddy? They always act like they're aggravated when they have to go out in the yard. He's a cute one, Ian, but he's a big one. And he's learned a new trick, Carol. My alarm went off yesterday on my phone, and he actually came and got me. I can't remember where I was at. I had set it down like in the living room or something, and I was in the kitchen, I believe, and he heard it, and he came over and started meowing at me, and I turned around, and he walked toward it. My phone, I think it aggravates him. I don't think he wants to hear it going off, so he came over and woke me and got me. At least that's what I said he did. Maybe he didn't, but that's what it seemed like. Oh, you've got a 15-pound Maine Coon. Is he I think that's a small Maine Coon. Maybe. I don't know. How old is he? Is he full grown, Ian? Because this boy's not a Maine Coon, and he's 20 pounds. And big, about the size of Mark's Border Collie. A smart cat to help with your smartphone. That's exactly right, Carkey. Carol, I'm gonna get Brendan to make him a sweatshirt that says "Comfort Animal" or "Comfort Teddy." I don't know what do you think I should call it. Comfort Cat just doesn't seem really enough. I think it should be more than that. Maine Coons, some Maine Coons are really cool. A friend of mine's got one that's really big, and he's this guy. Who knows what's in this cat. I mean, I'm sure he's a Heinz 57, but there's an extra large bottle of Heinz in there somewhere. So he's a big boy. He's got long legs and long body, and he's overweight, but he's also just a big cat. Aren't you? I mean, his head is about the size of mine. At least about the size of my fist. Well, guys, it's noon. It's noon 12. I'm gonna officially say I'm gonna stop at 12:30 today. And so, but if anybody else has any other comments about lost treasure or the state you live in, I'm sure Colorado has all kinds of stories about lost gold mines and that sort of thing. There's still people out there today that are searching diligently for the lost Dutchman gold mine. Historically, that's supposed to be out there, and nobody's ever found it. That's a bad thing about finding something like that and then dying and not telling anybody. You ought to at least spread it. Well, if you're not going to be around to enjoy it, somebody else ought to get a chance. Yeah, he's pretty chill, Ian. He, in fact, he's so chill that he used to like to get on camera with me, but he don't even want to do that. He just it's no big deal anymore. I mean, he has a fan club and an Instagram site, but he's just he's too laid back for that stuff. Yeah, people don't know this about this part of the country, but Western North Carolina had a gold rush too back in the in the 1700s, I believe, or early 1800s, long before California gold rush happened. There was one in this part of the country, and there's still people that mine gold in places, around here, at least south of here, southeast of here, along the mountains. There was a time when North Carolina was the largest gold producing state, at least. That's of course been long gone by now, but it certainly was here or there. In fact, North Georgia's got a lot of places where they mine gold too, and panned it back then. Wow, that snow is really pretty right now with the sun on. I should have Shelly's camera and be out here taking pictures.
There's that country we were talking about earlier in Arizona, down there by Prescott, all around that country, from Prescott to Phoenix to east over towards Globe. There's just all these rock formations that have been dynamited. They've got quartz veins running all through them, and they were getting the gold out.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of silver through there too, but but you had to watch you had to keep an eye peeled, because the Apache folks didn't take too kindly to that.
No, I can imagine not.
Tombstone was kind of formed because it was a silver rush down there between Tombstone and Bisbee and all that southeast Arizona stuff.
Well, Nevada had a lot of silver mines too, didn't they? More so than gold, I think. But I could be wrong with that.
The Comstock lode was a big silver mine there in Nevada.
Yeah. And was it Virginia City or just Silver City, Nevada was named that because of that?
Yep.
And there are places here where you can still go and pan for gold. There's little roadside places where you can go pay $10 and get you a bucket of stuff to pan or sift. Most of the time it's sifting for things. And people do occasionally find gems or nuggets. I mean, it's not common, but it's not unheard of either. We went to one time and did that I think it was with Kelly, and found a bunch of really neat amethyst stones. There's a lot of amethyst in some of these areas. And so that was kind of cool. And of course, Arkansas is famous for diamonds.
Yep.
I don't know about gold and stuff, maybe that too, but there's people walk in areas over there and pick up diamonds like arrowheads out of the plowed field, or have. I don't know how common that is, but they found some pretty good sized ones in there at one time or another. I know there's a couple of places where you can actually go and do that for diamonds over there, sift them or pan for them or whatever they do to find. I guess they wash them out through a race or something to clean them up, but and find them. But that'd be kind of fun to go find a big diamond. But again, I'd rather find a bunch of Clovis points or whatever those other points are that maybe predate Clovis, and just that kind of stuff to me would be far more exciting, I think, than gold and silver. I mean, not that I would turn gold and silver down, mind you, but
it'd be kind of nice to find those cans buried out in your yard.
Well, yeah, that would be kind of nice. They figured the guy there's a little bit of history that they researched it after they found it, and there was a guy apparently that lived there. They kind of knew, they traced the ownership of the property back, or at least what they think the ownership was, and they think the guy that lived there just buried them because he didn't trust anybody, to keep them or. But I mean, they're freshly minted coins. They took them into that when they first found them, they weren't sure exactly what they had, and so they took them into a. Okay, Let me close something. I've got some kind of warning there. They took them in to be looked at to see, what kind of value they had, because they weren't like they'd been at the bottom of the ocean or anything, but they were muddy and dirty and whatnot, and they didn't really want to try to clean them up if it was going to mess something up. So they took them in, and the guy cleaned it, and he was a coin specialist. He said they looked like they just came out of the mint out there. They were they were unused, basically. So
no wear on them or anything.
No, they'd gone to a bank or whatever and got fresh minted coins back when that used to happen, gold coins, and deposited them and put them in their cans and buried them in the backyard. And, I'm saying backyard, it might not have been his exact backyard. But, things like that happen. There were people that used to bury money and coins and things back east, too, because they didn't trust banks.
Yep.
And every once in a while, somebody will find something like that in the bottom of an old latrine or a toilet building or some place where they might have got buried years ago or dumped to hide them, which is another place to find a lot of treasures. There's people that literally do go up and look for and dig up old outhouse sites, that have long since not been used, of course, and find all kinds of glassware and other antiques that people used to just throw down the outhouse when they were through with it or tired of it. They just use that for their dump. Pardon the expression. Yeah, pardon my pun.
Ian should appreciate that one.
Excuse me.
That sounds like a crappy job.
Yeah, that'd be my luck. I'd get into one that was too fresh. Hadn't been closed up long enough. But there are people that make a living doing that. They find a lot of, they go out to old towns that have been deserted for a long time out west, or an area that's not been lived in the east for 100 years, and they find these. You can go to maps. There are maps of cities in some places, and if you can get one from say 1860, and it might actually show all the houses that were there at that time period and where they were at on streets, and they have the outhouses marked. And I guess that was for sanitation purposes or something, but they would mark them. And these people go back and find those locations, and that's where they dig to find all these bottles and different things that have been cast off, if you will. And someone made a deposit and left it there. And, yeah, it's a crappy job, but yeah, Ian, you need to come back more often. If if you laugh at my jokes or yours, that's always appreciated here. Mark has taught me try not to walk on people's jokes or laugh, so I try not to. Or no, step on your. What was it?
Don't step on your laugh.
Yeah, don't step on the laugh. My wife said that she knew we were on the phone the other day because she heard me down here cackling, laughing about something we did, something we were saying. Oh, me. Well, folks, I'm going to shut her down, I think. Thanks for coming. I appreciate y'all for being here. I'm not going to go to 12:30. I think I'm going to shut her off right now and get me something to eat. I realized I didn't get any breakfast this morning. And from the lack of sounds upstairs, I'm probably not going to get any right away either. But not that I can't cook for myself, but I still have trouble standing at the stove for very long. So it kind of affects things. I think my leg's getting a little better, but it's still weak. I was out yesterday a lot trying to do bird feeders and help Brenda around the house a little bit. And man, was it sore last night. My knee felt like it was about to come off, which would probably felt better if it had. So I iced it down and kept it it felt like it was really swollen. I don't know if it feels that way a lot though. So anyway, that's my whining for the day. I'm done with that. So Ian, great pleasure to have you in here today, sir. Thanks for joining us. And Carol, always a pleasure to have you in here, of course. And I don't know who's left. Don, if you're still here, thank you very much. Dave was here. He's gone, I know. And John, and kind of the usual crowd wanders in, as Billy Joel said. And there's a guy named Tennessee Bear. I'd thank my wife for showing up, but I'm pretty sure she's probably asleep. And Garrett announced this the other day. I will say this before I leave it. I'm thinking about trying to do a nighttime stream, not a real long stream. And I'm not sure yet what the topics are going to be. It'll be a little different from this because I'm going to try not to chase squirrels as much at night. And I chase them on Saturday morning. Hey, I said I was going to try. I didn't say I was going to be successful. I've actually thought about doing that too, just opening up, just start a show called Chasing Squirrels. I'm good at that. And if you hang around here, Ian, long enough, you'll understand that. Thank you, Don, as always. And see you guys. And I said, if the good Lord's willing and the creek don't rise, we'll be back here again next Saturday morning. And I don't know what we're going to talk about, but we'll find something. We might even talk about squirrels someday, what kind of squirrels really are out there. And maybe that would keep me on topic longer. I don't know. Probably not. But we can try. It's always hopeful. Mark, my brother, I appreciate you coming in. Always love to have you here. And always
didn't offer much today, but
yeah, you offered more.
I'm not a gold guy.
Well, I'm not a gold guy either. I said I'm fascinated by the history. I just love it when they find history and open up new thoughts about that, because I find that very fascinating. All right. Anyway, tell Shauna we said hello, and I hope she's okay. I assume she's there somewhere.
She's flitting about, busy this morning.
Give Boudreaux and Hank a scratch behind the ear. And
will do.
Tell him we said hey, and hope he's doing well. Not chewing up anything else that's going to get him killed.
He's been on me all morning, so
he's growing. I can tell how much bigger he is now. He's got his nose is longer.
Yeah,
a bit. He's looking more Dachshund in the head than I thought he did at first. I thought his nose might be a little bit blocky, but he's not.
He's a funny boy. He goes out and chases the horses with the border collie.
Well, he thinks he's a border collie.
Well, he has half.
Well, yeah. So I mean, it's just coming natural to him. And then he's built low to the ground, so maybe he can avoid kicks. That might be a good thing.
Yeah, I just need him to stay away from him.
Well, true. I know. That's probably true. All right, brother.
All right.
Take care. Bye, everybody. Thanks for coming in today. See you next week. Bye.